What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the overall market moving forward as we have very important news coming out. Not to mention some news about Tesla from these different analysts as they have different projections for Tesla stock. Let me just mention that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, and the offer ends very soon in just about 19 days from now. Anyways, for Tesla, we had a very, very crazy day today. We actually saw the market being very manipulated by these market makers, and we saw some very, very interesting stuff that was going on. Now, one thing worth noting about Tesla is that we actually closed below our 20 EMA, and that's a sign of weakness that developed on the share price. Right now, it's trying to chop around very close to this 250 area, but we have to be very careful right now because we ended up getting this dip at the end of the day because of this manipulation that happened. This actually changes my analysis for the market. So I want to give you guys a big update, at least in the next couple of minutes. But I first want to talk about some news about Tesla and also these other things. Just notes that for Monday, okay, there's not really much data coming out. There's no data coming out before the market opens that's too significant. But we do have Jerome Powell giving a speech at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday. And then for earnings, I just wanted to mention that we basically have Goldman Sachs and BlackRock announcing their earnings on Monday. For Tuesday, we have Bank of America and a few others. Then we have other things coming out like Netflix and TSMC, at least on Thursday. And that's pretty much it for earnings. We do have a lot of big ones, especially big banks like Morgan Stanley. We have Charles Schwab and a bunch of other ones. So we'll see how things end up going with those. As far as Tesla goes, I want to call out something very important. Basically, the Tesla robotaxi event speculation has led to Wedbush having an unchanged thesis, which is a good piece of news. Basically, Dan Ives is still very bullish on Tesla, saying that he's not really phased by this. He still believes that Tesla's extremely bullish despite this, and he thinks that there's going to be a lot of great things coming out. Now, it was negative, and he did mention that this was negative news that there's a delay to the August 8th robotaxi event. But at the end of the day, he believes that Tesla will once again hit their timing. Their partnerships are going to be fine, and the autonomous technology is not necessarily changing. It does not change their bullish Tesla thesis. And I have the same view. I'm still very bullish for all these events, but because the event is delayed a little bit, it could make things a little bit complicated just for the shorter term. Long term and medium term are going to be completely fine. Now, he's also talking about the 2 months delay that it has come out. They're saying that it's just to make the robotaxi event and prototypes even better, and things are going to actually be better because of this. So they think it's not changing the fact that it's going to be a very historical event. So very, very awesome in my personal opinion. It's very, very amazing to hear news about this. And he's very bullish nonetheless. He still thinks that Tesla is going to continue to squeeze, especially as we approach this event. That's what Dan Ives has been saying. However, there's also been some negative ratings coming out from like UBS. They basically gave Tesla a sell rating, saying that their premium is too significant. They also mentioned that Tesla is once again trading higher, but despite that happening, they still have a different view as far as Tesla goes. They're saying that Tesla has also been kind of like detached from its actual premium. They mentioned that with the delays coming out, Tesla's going to be very dependent on FSD, and with what's happening with the EV sector, they're not too happy, at least for Tesla, from this personal level. They also mentioned that the valuation breakdown found that at the current levels, the market is valuing Tesla's core auto business at around $60 to $90. And then with energy and robotics and everything else accounted for, that still once again puts it at about $175 a share. That's what they think Tesla is worth. They also mentioned that the other businesses involved with Tesla are worth about $93. So that puts Tesla's overall price target that they have around 197 a share with a sell rating that they've given Tesla. So they're saying to sell Tesla shares is going to drop down there. That's what UBS is saying. Now, I personally want to say that whether or not this does happen, if Tesla does end up dipping to low levels like this, I'm not phased by it. I'm very, very bullish nonetheless. And that's just, something that's very temporary in my personal opinion. There's also news coming out that the robotaxi won't be ready to scale until 2030, according to different analysts. So ever since that bad news that came out about the robotaxi event being delayed, once again, I'm not seeing Tesla confirm this. I'm just seeing this being said by Bloomberg. But I'm seeing a lot of negative news about Tesla. Lots of different analysts are saying that there's a big pivot. Robotaxi might not be ready for full scale until 2030, which I don't think could truly be developed quite yet. We can't truly say that until we see the product. We can't say that until we see what's being announced. If Tesla, says anything about the robo taxi, have to wait for the big events first in October in order for us to actually truly say that, in my personal opinion. So it doesn't make sense to me. I don't really agree with this analysis. I don't think we can truly say when the robo taxi is going to be ready for scale. It could be much sooner than expected, since the Tesla neural network is connected to all these different vehicles that they have in their entire fleet. So I would say that I'm not necessarily too scared or worried about this news. I think that we can't truly say that they won't be able to scale the robotaxi until 2030. It could be much sooner than what different analysts are thinking, and we have to wait for the big events to make a conclusion like that, in my personal opinion. With that being said, what do I see for Tesla stock? I'm going to be very quick with this part of the analysis for this video. Just to be blunt with everyone, Tesla is not looking that great. We're just consolidating at this 250 area. We got to reclaim 250 to remain bullish and try to push back up towards at least 255. If we fail to reclaim 250, we're going to be dipping back down towards lower levels, all the way down towards the 245 area, if not lower than that. So this is actually very important. We have a little bit of a downtrend that could be established if we have a lower high being established. We also closed below our 20 EMA. It's a bad sign, and that's because of manipulation that happened today. Let me elaborate on that. So the market was actually green for almost the entire day. And then during the last 30 minutes of the day, the markets ended up dumping. They dumped the market back down. So remember, we were rallying, we were pushing, we were pushing, we were pushing. Remember, the charts were looking like this. So they were looking quite bullish to us. When they look like this, we're just continuing to climb. Even when they started to consolidate around our key EMAs, everything was just completely fine. But then during the last 30 minutes of the day, what did the market makers do? They slammed the market back down to get SPY to close below 560. And that was just more manipulation to kind of affect the options chain. So on the 4-hour time frame, SPY now has a double top leg structure. This suggests that downside is a stronger possibility. Now we might actually come back down to at least 558. If we fail to hold that, we're going to be dipping all the way down to 557, which is where our 20 EMA is. And we'll see if that holds or not. That's going to be pivotal for the way we end up moving. We have a double top leg structure. There's risk of some downside, so we'll just have to be very patient nonetheless. We also have resistance at 560, so we'll see what the move is. But there is a risk of some downside on the 4-hour time frame, in my personal opinion, because of this double top. Now, why is this happening? There's a lot of manipulation. We pumped higher, then dumped, then pumped, then dumped, you know, 3, 4 days in a row. Absolutely insane. So from the way this is looking, this was looking like a trap for the bears in the morning as the market started pushing, only to become a trap for the bulls as we got this big rug pull. So very, very tricky stuff in my personal opinion, where the market makers screwed over a lot of people. So what's going to likely happen is we have a double top leg structure, and we have a very similar structure. We kind of like pumped from the wick and then rejected. We pumped from the wick and then we might just reject. So there is a good chance of a little bit of a dip, especially after this based off price action. So that's looking a little bit more probable to me, at least for now. For Nvidia, we're kind of shuffling at this 130 area. If we break through this, we're going to be looking for 132. And if we reject, we're coming back down to 127. My gut is telling me that this may consolidate around 130, maybe start coming down a little bit, especially after this big red bar. So this could be a lower high being established before we try to start dipping lower. We'll see if that ends up being the case, but that's one possibility. For Bitcoin's in a very, very strange position where we pumped all the way up to about 58,000 only to reject again. We kind of have like a triple rejection that's forming right here. So this kind of suggests that we might dip a little bit lower, back down to the lower 57,000s. So I find a risk of that to be very probable. We're trying to rebound, so look for a test of just under 58,000. If we reject, we're coming back down. If we break this, we could technically try to rebound, but I'm just going to be very careful with this because Bitcoin is kind of consolidating within this range, and there is a risk of it dipping a little bit from there. So look and see what happens with this range. I think that Bitcoin is range bound. It might dip a little bit lower again and just continue to kind of shuffle like this. So we'll see how it ends up going. But this is what I'm kind of like eyeing on Bitcoin, this nice little range right over here that Bitcoin is respecting. And then we will see if we get a breakout or not. But I think that it might continue to consolidate in this range, and we'll give it some time just for now. For the QQQ, it's the same thing essentially. The QQQ is trying to rebound very, very nicely, but then we closed below our 20 EMA. So we pumped, dumped, pumped, and now we're coming back down. If we hold above 495 next week, we could try to rebound. If it fails to do so, this could be a rejection. We could be dipping back down towards 490. If we fail to hold 495, we're dipping to 490. So watch for that. There is a risk of that now because we are technically below our 20 EMA. So once again, the market is shifting and we're seeing lots of manipulation taking place. For Apple, we dumped a bit only to get back green in the after hours. So it's very crazy. If we fail to hold this 230 area, we could be dipping back down towards 228. If we hold 230, we could try to rebound. It is possible this is a high here. We came down, we made a lower high, and we could start dipping. So we'll see if that ends up being the case or not. For Supermicro, we have kind of like a double top leg structure. Watch resistance at this 920 area. If we reject here, we're coming back down to 889. If we break this, we're going back up to 940. So we'll see if this ends up being the case. We still have like an inverse head and shoulders like structure, so there is some bullish momentum that could be forming. But we need to break 920 for confirmation. For the IWM Russell 2000, we're just shuffling between 214 and 212. We're kind of stuck in the middle, so we have to give this a little bit more time. So we'll see how things go. So be very, very patient with this. But there is a risk of this kind of dipping a little bit because of the way we closed. We could be dipping back down to 212.5. For Coinbase, we pumped only to dump at the end of the day. We technically are starting to reject off our 50 and 20 EMAs. So there's an increased probability of us dipping down to 216 next week. Amazon fails to hold above 195.7, which suggests to me that we might be dipping to 192.5. Meta is barely holding 497, our 200 EMA. If this fails to hold, we're going to be dipping all the way down towards 492. So watch 497 is the key level. We're showing weakness right now on Meta, and there's a risk of some downside. Microsoft also has a risk of downside. We're going to be looking for support at 452. If this fails, we'll be dipping all the way down towards 450. So watch for that. And then finally, for Google, we're also showing some signs of downside. We could be dipping all the way down to 185. So we'll be watching to see if this big red bar continues because we failed to hold our 50 EMA. That's another sign of weakness on Google that suggests downside is more probable. So the market is crazy. It likes to pump and dump and pump and dump. And now, because of the way we closed, there is a risk of us kind of dipping a little bit lower, but we'll have to see if supports end up holding up. With that being said, for Tesla, if the whole market does start sinking just a bit, this could slow Tesla down a little bit. We'll see how it ends up reacting to this 250 area. If we establish a lower high, we could be coming back down. If not, it depends on if we hold above 248 or not. But there is a risk that Tesla could be establishing a lower high and rejecting back down to the mid 240s. We'll see if that ends up being the case, so be very, very patient. With that being said, I want to say I really appreciate you guys so much for listening. Please have a great day, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow. Tesla to the moon. The long term is still very bright despite what we're seeing for the short term. And peace out.